In 2023, Emily Carter did something millions of people do every year. She ordered a DNA test kit online. It wasn't because she suspected anything. It wasn't because she felt lost. It wasn't because she doubted her family. She was just curious. Curious about her ancestry. Curious about where her family came from. Curious about the stories passed down at the dinner table. But 3 weeks later, when the results arrived, curiosity turned into confusion. And confusion turned into something far worse. Because the DNA didn't just reveal her heritage. It revealed a secret her family had buried for 25 years. Emily grew up in North London. Her childhood looked ordinary from the outside. Her father, David, worked as an accountant. Her mother, Sarah, was a primary school teacher. They weren't wealthy. They weren't dramatic. They were steady. Family dinners every Sunday. Summer trips to Brighton. Birthday photos lining the hallway wall. Emily had always been told she looked just like her father. Same eyes, relatives would say. Same smile. And for 25 years, she believed it. Started as a joke. One evening, Emily and her coworkers were talking about DNA test results. One friend discovered she was 12% Scandinavian. Another found a distant cousin in Australia. Felt harmless, fun, almost trendy. So that night, Emily ordered a test kit. When it arrived, she laughed as she swabbed her cheek. She mailed it back without a second thought. She didn't tell her parents. There was no reason to. 3 weeks later, she received an email notification. Your DNA results are ready. She opened it casually, sitting on her sofa with a cup of tea. First, it looked normal. Mostly British and Irish ancestry. A small percentage of Northern European. Nothing shocking. Until she clicked on the DNA matches tab. That's when she saw it. A name she didn't recognize. Daniel Hargrove. Shared DNA, 24%. Relationship prediction. Half-sibling. Emily stared at the screen. Half-sibling? She didn't have a half-sibling. At least, not that she knew of. She refreshed the page. Logged out. Logged back in. The result didn't change. There was even a message notification. From Daniel. It read, "Hi, I believe we might share the same biological father. I've been trying to understand this for weeks. Please let me know if you're willing to talk." Her heart started racing. Same biological father? That didn't make sense. Her parents had been married for 30 years. There were no secrets, no scandals, no whispers, or were there? That weekend, Emily visited her parents. She brought her laptop. She didn't know how to start the conversation. Dinner felt normal. Too normal. Finally, she said it. "Mom, Dad, I took a DNA test." Her mother smiled. "Oh, how exciting. What did you find?" Emily turned the screen toward them, and everything changed. Her father went silent. Her mother's face drained of color. Neither of them spoke for nearly 30 seconds. It was the longest silence of Emily's life. Then her mother whispered, "We were hoping this would never happen." The story came out slowly. 25 years ago, Emily had been born at a London hospital during a particularly chaotic winter. There had been staff shortages, equipment failures, multiple births in the same ward, and one mistake, a devastating mistake. 2 baby girls were born within minutes of each other. In the confusion, hospital staff accidentally swapped them. The error wasn't discovered immediately. It wasn't discovered for months. By the time suspicions arose, both families had already bonded deeply with the children they were raising. Legal action was discussed. But ultimately, both families made an impossible decision. They chose to keep the babies they had taken home, and they agreed to never speak of it publicly. Emily wasn't biologically their daughter, and somewhere else in London, another woman had raised their biological child. Daniel was that child's brother. Emily felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her. Her identity, her memories, her sense of belonging, all shaken. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. Her father finally spoke. "Because you're ours. Biology doesn't change that." But biology had changed something. It had introduced questions. Who did she really look like? Where did her laugh come from? Were her mannerisms inherited or learned? And what about the other family? Did they know she existed? Weeks later, Emily agreed to meet Daniel. They chose a quiet cafe. When he walked in, she froze. He had her eyes, the same tilted smile. The resemblance was undeniable. Daniel explained that his sister, the woman raised by Emily's biological parents, had taken a DNA test first. That's how the discovery began. Both families had been forced to confront the same truth. Two lives intertwined by accident. Two identities shaped by silence. Emily eventually met her biological parents. The meeting was emotional but complicated. There was curiosity. There was sadness. There was no anger. Just a quiet understanding that life had unfolded the way it had. She didn't feel replaced. She didn't feel stolen. She felt split. Part of two stories. Connected to two families. Bound by one hospital mistake. Today, Emily maintains contact with both families. Holidays are sometimes shared. Birthdays acknowledged twice. The secret that was buried for 25 years is no longer hidden. But it left a permanent mark. Because sometimes, identity isn't about who raised you. And it isn't just about DNA. It's about the space between truth and love. And what happens when curiosity uncovers something that was never meant to be found. Musical note: music fades slowly. Over 26 million people have taken at-home DNA tests worldwide. Some discover ancestry, others discover secrets. When Emily mailed that small plastic tube back to the lab, she believed she was sending away a simple cheek swab. What she didn't realize was that she was sending a question into the past. DNA is quiet. It doesn't argue. It doesn't forget. It doesn't protect secrets. It simply records. Inside every cell of our bodies lies a biological archive, a coded story written long before we take our first breath. Carries the imprint of those who came before us. Parents, grandparents, generations stretching back centuries. And for most people, that story confirms what they already believe. But for some, it rewrites everything. Over the last decade, millions of people around the world have taken at-home DNA tests. What began as curiosity about ancestry has evolved into something far deeper. Reunions with lost siblings, hidden adoptions uncovered, families discovering unknown branches of their own tree. DNA has quietly become one of the most powerful truth-tellers of our time. And unlike whispered rumors or forgotten paperwork, it cannot be altered. For Emily, the numbers on that screen weren't just percentages. 24% shared DNA. Half-sibling. Those numbers represented a fracture in the story she had lived for 25 years. But here's the unsettling truth about identity. We build it on what we're told. We believe we know who we are because our parents tell us. Because photographs confirm it. Because memories support it. Yet DNA exists outside of memory. It operates without emotion. It doesn't care about comfort. And when it contradicts the life you've known, it forces you into a space between two realities. The one you lived, and the one written in your blood. For many families, secrets were once safe in silence. Before the internet, before digital records, before commercial DNA databases, a hospital mistake could be buried. An affair could remain hidden. An adoption could stay sealed forever. But today, a single test can unlock decades of silence in seconds. It doesn't knock gently. It arrives with a notification. Your results are ready. And suddenly, the past is no longer distant. It's immediate. For Emily, the discovery wasn't just about biology. It was about belonging. Was her father still her father? Was love measured by genetics? Was family defined by blood? Or by the years spent at the dinner table? DNA can reveal origins, but it cannot define attachment. It can identify biological links, but it cannot erase shared memories. That's the emotional paradox of genetic truth. Sometimes it strengthens bonds. Other times it tests them. And sometimes it splits identity into two parallel stories. One written by nurture, one written by nature. As DNA testing continues to grow worldwide, more people are confronting these questions. Who am I really? Where do I come from? And what happens when the answer isn't what I expected? For some, the truth brings closure. For others, it brings chaos. But for all of them, it brings clarity. Because DNA does not whisper, it reveals. And once revealed, cannot be hidden again. Musical note: music softens. For Emily, the results didn't destroy her family. They reshaped it. They expanded it. They complicated it. But they also forced an honesty that had waited 25 years to surface. And perhaps that's the quiet power of DNA. Not to break families apart, but to bring buried truths into the light, even when they were never meant to be found.
Click the subscribe button for more interesting stories like this.